31 is an album made up of Manchester music. I wanted to put out a release that showed the breadth and depth of Manchester's current music scene, which for me personally, I think for a lot of people is kind of the most exciting that it's been for a long time. And the idea behind the album was to show a kind of snapshot of Manchester's music scene at the moment and almost become more than a compilation album, become kind of a soundtrack for the city. I wanted the proceeds from 31 to go to CALM, which is the Campaign Against Living Miserably. It's a charity, a national charity that's aimed at reducing the high suicide rates in young men, which is currently the single biggest killer of young men in the UK, which I found quite a shocking statistic. CALM has its roots in Manchester because it started here and maintains a huge amount of support from the city. And I felt that kind of Manchester music going to a real Manchester cause that affects a lot of people, I thought was a good thing to do. Tony Wilson was a founding patron of CALM and very, very supportive of it throughout his life. I think it was obviously something personal to him with the loss of Ian Curtis from Joy Division. How much influence has Tony had on the city? I don't know if you can quantify it. I think it's vast, you know, everything from kind of in the city to me being inspired to set up the Factory Foundation to celebrate the kind of legacy and spirit of that whole thing, you know, his programme So It Goes on Granada. I think it's sort of, yeah, I think it's really hard to quantify, but I would certainly say it's a huge legacy. I set up the Factory Foundation in 2003 with the aim of celebrating the legacy and spirit of Factory, which for me was about music and was about young people. I was inspired to do that mainly because I was a young person at the time, and I don't come from, you know, sort of a privileged or wealthy background. I don't have a degree, you know, sort of went to work when I was 16, but I've been given a huge amount of opportunities in Manchester, people who sort of put faith in me to deliver things that I'd never done before, and I wanted to, I suppose, do the same, you know, for kind of other young people. Our first project was called Decks for Schools. We worked with 2,500 14 to 16-year-olds across Greater Manchester between 2004 and 2008. We worked with Manchester College and Key 103 Radio, and the project was about empowering young people to re-engage in education, training and employment using music to actually get them sort of back on track. Manchester's musical heritage is interesting to me because I think people globally sort of know about the Hacienda and, you know, Birth of Acid House and Happy Mondays and all of that, and that in itself is a fantastic legacy. But beyond that, you've got kind of, you know, Herman's Hermit and the Hollies. You know, it goes back so far. Actually, it's almost part of the fabric of the city. I think that a lot of places have this really bad habit of trading off the past in terms of music or their kind of cultural scene. Manchester is the one place that I feel doesn't do that, and is the one place that doesn't have to do that because its current music scene is still thriving. My recommendations for Manchester at the moment in terms of music, No Ceremony, one of the artists on 31, is just they're an incredible band, and they're sort of going to, that's my sort of hot tip for 2012. There's also Lone Lady, Julie, who's signed to Warp Records now. It's just kind of right across the board, you know, the sort of music springing up. Obviously Silver Club is a favourite of mine because they were the first artists that I put out on the Factory Foundation, also on 31. So those are my hot three. In terms of venues, the Ruby Lounge is a real gem. I think Jay Taylor, who runs that place, works really, really hard in terms of pushing new music forward. I've got a lot of respect for him, obviously with BBC Introducing, do their show from there, and obviously have, you know, lots of new artists like Ruby Ann Patterson, JP Cooper, also on 31, and also a place like the Deaf Institute, and the Trough chain. It's little gems that you can find in the city if you seek them out. If I was coming into Manchester, I would head straight from Piccadilly to the Northern Quarter. I just think it's just a fabulous, I think it should be like a UNESCO World Heritage Site because it has, I don't know if it still has, but it used to have the most record shops per square foot than anywhere else in Europe, and there are still a lot of them there. So definitely I'd head towards the vinyl racks in the Northern Quarter, grab a cup of tea and an amazing cake at Teacup, Mr Scruff's place. And then there's, I mean, to be honest, I've been here for the best part of 12 years now, and I still haven't seen everything, the kind of the museum, the art gallery, the People's History Museum. It's kind of, there's so much to do.